नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथस्वामिनिति नामे। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामे। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी चारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य स्थाने। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास्ति गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं भंगं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं। Paramananda Madhav. Hare Krishna. So today we'll discuss the topic of discipline from a lecture given by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. This is a topic by Radhesham Prabhu. He used this material, so we are using the same. Discipline is a relevant topic at this point for us because we started this journey about a year ago, and some or many of you actually started chanting. Now that you are actively practicing Bhakti Yoga, it is important to understand the importance of discipline in spiritual life and what is said about it in Bhagavad Gita. We'll read some slokas and understand this concept deeply. So this verse is in Bhagavad Gita 264. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaicharan atmavashyer vidheyatma prasadam adhigachati. Raga dvesha. Raga means attachment. Dvesha means aversion. All of us have things that we like, things we don't like, right? Which we want to avoid in life, correct? This is normal tendency of mind. Mind likes to do certain things, doesn't like certain things. Things or people, same. Sometimes we like certain people, we don't like certain people. Situations also same. Like certain situations, we don't like certain situations. But these are all actually coming from mind. Mind, we have these five senses, and then mind is the coordinating sense. Mind takes inputs from all these and forms its own opinion and acts in this world to like or dislike. That is a function of mind. But by the practice of regulative principles of freedom, meaning we all are doing certain do's and avoiding certain don'ts in life, right? Right now, for example, many of you are taken to the practice of chanting in the early morning. You have a choice to sleep in the morning, 5 to 6 or say 6 to 7 in the morning. But you have chosen, many of you have chosen to chant the Mahamantra at the time, right? That's a regulative principle. You have regulated your daily schedule, regulated your mind, regulated your senses. Your mind may say, I want to sleep, but you have decided not to sleep. Right? You have sacrificed your sleep for a higher goal, right? Spiritual goal. You want to achieve, um, you know, uh, spiritual growth, and hence you have chosen to practice spiritual life at the time, right? So how will it help? It'll it will help one to receive the mercy of the Lord, right? So just like when a child tries to act in ways to please the parents, parents will naturally be very happy and pleased and therefore bless them, bless the child. Similarly, with your teacher or anything, teacher will give you more time, parents will give you more attention. Similarly, God will shower upon us, the blessings and mercy, right? But the simple act of um, practicing, spiritual life seriously through regulation regularly. Regulation means you are consistent in what you do, right? So that will also lead to become free from attachments and aversions in this world, right? Mind has this habit of attachments and aversions we discussed. That will become free when you practice, when you start controlling your senses and you know practice regulative principles of freedom, right? uh, and why it happens? Because you receive the blessings of Lord, right? And through that you become free from attachments and aversions in this world. So it works like that. So you first act yourself, um, by practicing certain regulations like raising early in the morning, chanting the holy names, or engaging in services, or engaging in aradhana of Lord. So that attracts the mercy of the Lord, and that in turn helps you become detached, or become free from attachments and aversions in this world, right? That's how it works. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, this is from Bhagavad Gita 264. One may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall, right? Um, so this practice of sense control, sometimes we try to do artificially, artificially try to detach ourselves from the sensory activities. But unfortunately, that is not sustainable because mind always craves for enjoyment, right? That is the nature of mind. It is always looking for ananda. That is the nature. That is the nature of the soul, and naturally, unless and senses need engagement. The senses, the eyes want to see beautiful things, uh, skin want to touch soft things, tongue want to taste the best food, right? Ears want to hear the nice music. In this way, every sense craves for its enjoyment. That is the nature of existence in the material world. I mean, because the soul within is Anandamaya Bhyasat. Its nature is to be happy always, so it expresses that through senses. And so senses crave for this enjoyment through sense objects. However, how do you control from, if you leave the senses to its, um, if you let senses free, they want to just go to movies and, completely enjoy outside without cares, without any cares. But how do you engage them in a better way, right? So that is engaging in the service of the Lord is one best way to engage our senses, right? For example, you engage in looking at the beautiful form of the Lord through your eyes. Engage in hearing wonderful kirtans, sankirtanas of Lord, and touch the feet of Lord or devotees. In this way, every sense can be engaged. Your hands can be used in serving Lord, maybe cooking for Lord, like that. So in this way, all senses can be positively engaged, right? So in that way, we cannot leave the senses to be engaged and achieve any kind of detachment in this world. Instead, the ideal way is to engage them positively in a spiritual way, right? So that is a yeah. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. So this is how a practicing spiritualist or a devotee would like to engage himself on a daily basis, um, all his senses, right? Yeah, need of discipline. Yeah, so as mentioned in this verse, one who follows regulative principles of spiritual life can attain mercy of the Lord and thus become free from all attraction and diversion, or um, attraction and diversions, right? Um, so, what are these? Do you all agree that we need discipline in life? For that matter, anything to achieve anything, right? So, can we achieve anything without discipline in life? We cannot. For example, you have studied engineering. Before that, you had to go through an entrance test, correct? All of you, all of us have gone through engineering entrance tests. When you are preparing, you have to give a lot of time. Sometimes you may have to wake up early in the morning to study or stay up late in the night to study. You worked beyond, no pains, no gains, correct? If you really want to gain something, you have to take the pain. So nothing is free in this world. We need to. Uh, so that requires some sort of discipline. If suppose you study 2 days and 3 days of the week you don't study, can you achieve anything significant? Right? Can you? Anybody answers? Want to answer? We cannot achieve anything significant if you are not disciplined. Correct? Either in material or in the spiritual circle, anywhere. That is the reason we all try to regularly practice spiritual life. Like every day, for example, every day we chant the holy name. That's a regulation we have taken. Nobody will, stop you if you don't chant. But we all want to advance spiritually, and hence we have chosen to practice that regulative principle. Correct? So that requires discipline. Every day we have to do, um, uh, irrespective of whether it's convenient or not. Sometimes we might sleep late, sometimes we sleep early, but still we stick to the regulation, right? So in Vedic scriptures, there is this term called yama and niyama. Hmm? Yama are things that should be done. Niyama are things that should not be done, right? Mm. And what are the things to be done? The things that are favorable to advance spiritual life, right? Those are the things we want to do more, right? For example, what are the things that are favorable to grow spiritually? Anybody want to say a few? Shashwat Prabhu, you have anything to say? If you want
Uh,
to spiritually, what things we should do?
from what I've learned from all of you, Prabhuji, chant Krishna's name with utmost sincerity as much as we can every day.
Hmm.
Um, Attempt to serve the Lord for His pleasure according to His will and desire, and
Service to.
engage our senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, everything towards Krishna, so that mind also develops taste accordingly.
Yes, very good. Very nice points. Anybody else want to add anything else?
Devotee association, reading.
Yes. Associating with devotees, especially those who are very sincere, because bhakti is contagious. If we associate with those like-minded devotees who are very sincere, we also develop the taste. Yeah, and also studying scriptures, because scripture is the word of God, and by studying scripture, um, we stay in touch with Lord directly, and our intelligence get purified. Right, our intelligence needs purification, and by studying scripture on a daily basis, or at least regularly, once or twice a week at least, if we do that, then um, we our intelligence becomes very strong. Means intelligence becomes strong means it helps us make right decisions in life, because moment to moment, we have to make decisions in life. And by keeping our intelligence strong, we make, right decisions in life. Yeah. Yeah. Reject things that are unfavorable for advancement in spiritual life. Anybody want to say a few things we should avoid? Mudra, you want to say?
Anything, the four regulative principles that we have spoken so far. So,
Yeah.
not meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit relationship.
Yes, those are all don'ts. Correct. Anything else? Anybody want to say? Which hinder so because these are all activities that will dampen our spiritual life. If you're if you're running at a high speed, these are like distractions in that race. So we don't want to be succumb to it. Anybody else want to add anything else? Raghavi?
No stealing of energy and things of others. And sorry, I interrupted. I'll let Raghavi contribute.
No, go ahead. You're saying something. Can you repeat?
No stealing of energy or things from others.
Stealing, yeah.
Being clean, which is again no illicit relationship, but being completely clean. And then there were others too. Prabhuji, I believe you had gone through the Ashtanga Yoga, right? And there were like Yam Niyam. There are many of those.
Pratyahar, pranayam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are do's, but simple things we don't need to, just in simple words, so you can say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the match formula. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Merciness, austerity, truthfulness, chanting, and I think I don't remember CNH, chanting, right? And then
Yeah, chanting and hearing.
So sorry.
Hearing.
Hearing. Okay.
Yeah, hearing spiritual literature. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody want to add? Raghavi, are you adding?
Yeah, Prabhuji. So the question is hindrance to the spiritual progress, right? Is that the question? I got confused.
Yeah. Anything that we should avoid to grow spiritually?
I think one thing is procrastination. I think I have that. I'm trying to get rid of that, and yeah, that's one main thing that is one of the main hindrance in my spiritual progress, I think. So I'm trying to get rid of that. So yeah.
Okay, good. Anybody else want to add? Arjun Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I think one of the main hindrances is like jealousy as well. If we are jealous of other devotees, then it's very difficult to progress in a spiritual life.
Very good point. Yeah. Why we should avoid? How do we understand why jealousy? How do we avoid jealousy? Anybody want to add?
I think doing more devotional service like seva in the kitchen or like doing seva in temple in the guidance of a spiritual guru,
Correct.
then we can.
Yeah, jealousy will automatically go away if you engage in service of Lord slowly and slowly. Yeah, Mudra, you want to add something?
I don't know, Prabhuji, if this thought is accurate, but the belief or faith that everyone is given what they need. So, like God has done the right thing in terms of giving you the right resources to.
There is no need for comparison with what others have.
Yeah.
That's the main understanding. So what anybody has is actually given by God himself. Krishna himself has given something to him. If you are becoming envious of him, it means that you do not want Krishna to give that to him. Right? So the
But-
main reason we think, I'm sorry, the main reason we think or we become envious of somebody is that we think they have something, but actually anybody has anything
Hmm.
is actually given by Krishna.
Hmm.
In a way, by envying somebody, we are envying Krishna himself.
Hmm.
You see, because
Hmm.
nobody can have anything without the sanction of Krishna, correct?
Hmm.
Somebody has a position or a prestige or position of some
Hmm.
says it is all sanctioned by Lord. It is
Hmm.
all according to his karma and sanction of the Lord. And you get according to your own karma. There is no comparison. You are a different manufactured product. He is a different product. There is no comparison with anyone. Comparison has no meaning at all. You don't know what new challenges will come in his life. He may get a bad disease. You don't know. You cannot just ask for what he has. We don't know what is in the future. Just focus on what we have and see God's hand in your life. You
Hmm.
never compare because there is nothing to compare with anybody. Everybody is its own product. Everybody is on his own way back to Godhead.
Hmm.
Yeah. So our focus should be on where we are and how we can speed up our journey back to God. That is the only focus. Anything one has in material world or not have is immaterial, because end of the day everybody will lose everything anyway. So there is nothing to feel too proud of what we have materially in this material world.
Hmm.
Frankly, there is no, that's a little, having something or not, even if comparing with somebody so rich as Elon Musk, having material things for a span of say next 20-30 years is nothing. If you compare that you have lived millions of years, what is there, what is so great about having something in a span of a flash, right? Life is like a flash.
Hmm.
So in that span, if you're a billionaire or not, how does it matter? The what really matters is whether you have spent your life in a way that you are getting closer to God. That makes any difference, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So there is literally nothing to compare with anyone in this material existence. Yeah. Yeah. So people don't understand that to grow spiritually, we need to have discipline, right? Do's and don'ts, yama and niyama. Right? But all yoga practices, like even Ashtanga yoga, has yama and niyama as the beginning steps. Bhakti yoga has regulative principles or regulative principles. So every yoga has requirement to practice some kind of discipline to grow in that path, right? Yoga begins with discipline. But there are some great yogis or famous yogis, let's say, put that way, in the West in the past, who were very popular, but they would not, recommend anything to abstain from their students or disciples. So they would say, if you like cigarettes, smoke cigarettes. If you like alcohol, no problem with alcohol, go ahead and do it. Right? So in this way, um, but we know practically it's not going to work, right? So all that they teach, that's why we have to be careful in the name of spirituality. There are so many bogus teachers, and the main way to understand who is bogus, who is real, is whether they they teach any regulation or not first, because spiritual life without any regulation is zero. Do they focus on disciplining the students? If not, then there's not going to be much spiritual progress in that path. Whether they have they are teaching what is there in the revealed scriptures like Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata, or are they just teaching from their own, understanding or realization, the so-called realization? We cannot rely on such. If you are studying engineering, you want to study from a bona fide college, by studying from authorized books. You cannot, because what is written in those books is being tested and verified, experimentally proven. And so what you are learning is bona fide. So even in spiritual life, it is the same. We cannot learn from anybody who is not aligning himself with a path that is bona fide, right? A guru parampara, practicing discipline, etc. Yeah, discipline is not something that only in the Vedic path it exists. Even in Christians have this Old Testament, they have these 10 commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet another's property, thou shalt not commit adultery, same things, right? But these are very, very basic. These are not really, um, high class, but they are there. These 10 commandments are given in Bible as well. Right? So it is part of every bona fide religion, right? The religion that is practiced over thousands of years. So these are the regulations we discussed already. Many of it we'll just repeat quickly, right? What must be avoided strictly and what must be accepted. Okay. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Asat Sangha Chaga E Vaishnavachara. So he described that one must avoid association of materialistic and sinful people, right? Why? What happens if we associate with materialistic people? Materialistic people means people who are after sense gratification, right? They want to enjoy their senses in the material world. Sinful people means they break all the regulative principles, right? They might be, smoking or drinking wine or illicit relations, right? So if we associate with them, our mind compromises, thinks that it is okay to do those things. That is the reason it will spoil our mind, right? So we should be very careful with association. Avoid materialistic people. These people always want to enjoy their senses, right? They want to go eat in restaurants and go to pubs, uh, opposite relation, opposite sex relations, etc. So we should avoid those. And second one must keep the association of the saintly people. So this we should do regularly, especially when saintly people come, like sannyasis or advanced devotees. We should go hear them, right, and learn from them. In that association, we grow spiritually. One must avoid these things we already know, 4 regulative principles. One must avoid, yeah, go ahead, Mudra.
Prabhuji, like studying engineering and doing our work, that is also materialistic in the sense, right? Like, let's say most of us are engineers or have that background, and we like studying that
Mhm.
in our free time too, but that is materialistic, right? It is materialistic.
Here is materialistic, but so for our bodily maintenance, we have to deal with material energy anyway. There is no way to avoid it. For most people, very few people can completely engage their life fully in the God service, like brahmacharis and sannyasis. For most grihasthas and uh, uh, for most of the people in this world, they have to deal with material energy to sustain their life in this world. What is recommended here is to make friends with materialistic people, that should be avoided. Just to go and work in an enterprise,
Hmm.
earn livelihood is not a sin.
Hmm.
You can purify that by engaging some portion of your earnings by using them in service of God. But completely avoiding it is impossible. So it's not. I mean, from ages, it's the practice that we have to be engaged with material energy to earn livelihood. That is how it is. So
Uh,
what should be avoided is, let me complete this one
yes,
point.
yes, sorry.
So what should be avoided is openly sharing our mind with materialistic people or hearing out their mind. So developing close heart-to-heart relation with materialistic people is the thing we should avoid at work, right? We can be dutiful there. We can be engaged at a transactional level, but revealing mind or opening or hearing their mind is something. So that is called association. Association means we don't just come together to chant and hear. We also develop some kind of deeper friendship, especially among devotees, to ask questions with each other, how they're doing, how it is helping to grow spiritually. Association is one step deeper to reveal one's mind, to express one's challenges. So those things we should avoid with materialistic people. That is the main point there. Yeah, go ahead now.
Yeah, a quick follow-up. Like you mentioned for maintenance of the body, which we can do at any place that we work, but sometimes we make choices around, and the desire to learn the skill is again a materialistic desire, right? So,
Not
uh,
necessary. Not necessary. If you think that I will use this money to raise a good family, to use ultimately, to save and
mm,
to retire early, or whatever. Many people have many plans
mm,
to stabilize their spiritual life in future.
mm,
So,
mm,
so there is nothing wrong in fact, what about Arjuna? Arjuna, all his life, many times he would stay whole night to learn the art of archery, to excel in that art.
mm, mm, mm,
But he was thinking, I'll become. And by the way, his desire is to be the world's top art,
mm,
top in archery. That is
mm,
his goal.
mm,
One way it is a materialistic goal.
mm,
Ultimately, he used that in the service of Krishna, right?
mm,
When he engaged in that world war.
mm,
So learning a skill is not wrong. In fact, you can use that in the service of Lord, because your consciousness is always to be with devotees and to serve devotees, right? So whatever you learn, that's all good. If you become the best in your area, in fact, that is good, because people think, hey, what is the secret behind this person's skill? He's
mm,
so focused, he's so determined, he achieves results so well. And they take your example and ask, hey, what do you do at your spare time that you are so efficient?
mm,
So it happens. So next we'll read one story like that, after
mm.
action. Any other questions?
No, Prabhuji, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else has any other questions? Prabhakar joined. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on. Yeah. One must avoid causing harm to other living beings. This is a basic thing. We should avoid causing harm through our actions or even words, right? We should not speak in a harsh way that it will hurt others. We should not act in such a way that it will cause pain to other living entities, because every living entity is a child of God. If you love your father, you will love his children also. Correct? So our process is developing love towards God. That is the ultimate goal. We are not here to achieve anything material. If it comes, that's good on its own. But so naturally, we do not harm other living entities, whether it is humans or even other living entities. One must avoiding speaking worldly topics because it simply leads to envy and greed. Yeah, worldly topics, talking about current politics or those things that do not help our spiritual life. Of course, it's impossible to completely avoid, but minimize as far as possible, right? Because in different circles you might hear intentionally or unintentionally. That's okay, but as long as you don't ponder too much, it will not disturb you that much in your spiritual life. One must accept spiritual topics. One must hear spiritual topics like you're all coming together, regularly. Accept the chanting of God's name, right? One should accept the chanting of God's name. I hope most of you are now, actively chanting the name of God. And then one must accept the holy association. These are the form of discipline, right? One must accept the holy association of God. Yoga means to discipline the mind and discipline the senses. Yeah, this is the verse we read. Oh, Tani sarvani samyamya yuktamasi tamatpara vasehi yashendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. One who restrains the senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as the man of steady intelligence. Right? So by practicing yoga, this will automatically happen. What happens? When you practice yoga, your senses naturally gain restraint. They won't run here and there because you try to engage them positively in spiritual ways, right? Like we discussed in the beginning. And therefore, when you practice yoga, like chanting the holy names or engaging in archana or whatever, then your consciousness is always fixed on Krishna. This is Krishna speaking. One who restrains the senses means follows the regulated principles and fixes his mind upon me, consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence or a woman, right? So that stabilizes your intelligence. So such a person is fixed in his mind. He's clear. What is my goal, right? He'll not be wavering in his goal of life.
Probably one question here.
Mhm.
So we are trying it, but imagine like if mind gets diverted, right? Mind just switches from here and there, right? So unable to focus properly, Prabhuji. So what is the guidance here in that case?
So yeah, it is the nature of mind, especially when are you talking about chanting at the time of chanting?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So right now our mind is always distracted. The reason is we do not have taste for the holy name. Okay, that is so this is called the stage of nama bhasa. Nama bhasa means you are chanting, but you are not really having the taste for the holy name.
Yes.
When somebody has the taste for holy name, he will be basically one who has that connection with God. He has the taste for the holy name. When he chants, he is experiencing ecstasy, which is a term or a spiritual bliss. But unfortunately, we do not have that. We are not at that stage. Why we should do then? Then why are we doing when we don't have taste? Why are we even trying it? We are trying it because it will eventually lead to the state of pure chanting. Okay, so what do we do when our mind is getting distracted? We have to bring forcefully back to the holy name. That's a fight. That's a fight we have to go through on a daily basis, right? Just like we exercise against the gravitation, right? For example, we are pulling there is some pain in your hands when you're raising dumbbells or whatever, right? But you
Yeah.
do that, when you do that, your strength builds in your muscle, correct? So similarly, as and when mind gets distracted, we try to bring it back. We try various things, One thing some of us are trying is to chant together in the morning, right?
Mhm.
Sit before in a Zoom call and chant together. That's one way, just by looking at others, or hearing from others, in that, attention of moment, we basically completely focus on chanting the holy name, correct? So in
Yeah.
this, bring some regulation and try to uh, bring mind to control. But all the time it goes, I've been practicing for almost, 18, 19 years. Even my mind gets distracted, it's part of the game until we completely get purified. Uh, it, it's it is it's a constant game, constantly we try to bring the mind back to focus on the holy name, right? That is the exercise. It's like a exercise daily, on a daily basis. But over time you feel the connection, things will improve slowly, but we need to keep persistent on that effort.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mudra.
Prabhuji, sometimes it happens that when we chant, it's kind of a prayer, and we are praying for, or at least I do, where I am also thinking that these things I don't want to do, and Krishna, please help me in these situations. So, um, is it okay to, when we do the chanting, we speak those words, but also have this thinking or that thought in mind? Is it okay to have that thought?
Yeah, so you can do one thing. You can do at the beginning of, chanting.
Mhm.
The main thing at the time of chanting is a humble, prayerful mood. Krishna, I am in this material existence suffering and I need your shelter. That is
Mm,
the kind of mood. It's just like somebody is drowning under water, for example, right?
mm,
With his nose closed, completely out of breath, right? And this, how that child, for example, a child falls in water and, it doesn't know how to swim, how the child cries for help. That is the ideal mood in which acharyas say we should chant. So we may not be there. And at the time of chanting, the main thing we should do is to hear what we are chanting, because that will purify our mind.
mm,
Speak and hear. In between the two, the mind exists in between the two. It's like a, the agent of communication. We experience what we hear through mind,
mm,
and by hearing through our mind, we purify our mind. Mind
mm,
is like a storehouse of all experiences, memories, right? Good, bad, negative, materialistic, spiritual, everything is there in our mind. Is the repository of impressions of all that existed, not only in this life. Actually, it has things of millions of lifetimes, just that they're locked. It's not open for this lifetime to experience and know what those other impressions are. But all your karmic impressions are right in your mind. Subtle. It's a subtle material. But when you chant the holy name, it gets cleansed. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhaumaha davagni nirvapanam. Kairava chandrika vitranam vidyavadu jivanam. So this mind is like a mirror with dust covered by impressions of all past lifetimes. Now, when you chant the holy name, this dust gets cleared, and you can see the mirror. The mirror is the mind, right? So when the mind acts like a mirror, you can see your true self, correct? How can you see yourself in a mirror? Only when the mirror has no dust, correct? All the material impressions of life, lust, greed, anger, envy, all these, negative, unwanted things in our heart, or like dust on that mirror of mind. As you chant, what happens is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, just like Darpan means mirror, Marjana means cleansing. The chanting will cleanse the mirror of mind. And when that happens, you can see your true self as the soul, as the, eternal part and parcel of God. You see, that's what it helps you realize ultimately, the process of chanting. But right now, we are far away from that. So at this point, when you chant, the main thing is to focus on hearing what you are chanting through your mind. And when you do that, you don't know how it works, but it constantly is cleansing your heart from inside. Who is doing that? The Paramatma within the heart. Lord himself actually cleanses the heart. Right? By chanting every single mantra, you are actually wiping out dust accumulated over millions and millions of years. You don't know how long you are in this material existence. Could be, 1 billion million years. You don't know. So that much impressions are there in layers and layers of mind. And this process is actually cleaning that whole that thing. So Mahamantra chanting is very, very powerful. That's why it's called Mahamantra. So it's all powerful. When you chant, it is cleansing the dust of accumulated on the mind, mirror of mind.
Prabhuji, you had given a explanation in the chat, or somebody had asked about how to chant, and we can chant while doing a lot of things, but there was one specific, some clarification that you had provided, that what is the best way to do chanting and what really counts. It's not everything that counts when we chant.
Right.
Could you just...
Especially when you are chanting, a lot of people chant while doing things like cooking or driving. When you are doing something else while you are chanting, that is good to chant. You are remembering Lord, but we should not count that as a round, because that is not focused on Krishna. Correct? Chanting is a direct engagement with Lord on a phone call. Like you are on a phone call with Krishna when you are chanting. Now, if you are doing cooking when you are chanting, what does it mean to Krishna? Suppose you have a prime minister attention. I mean, Lord is even much far bigger than a prime minister of this material world. Will you be distracted from the attention given to the Lord, or to the prime minister on a phone call? We wouldn't. If we do, then it's not actually chant. We should not say that it is chanting, because you're not giving your 100%. Correct?
Yes,
So that's the main thing. If you are counting as your regulated chanting, it shouldn't be without 100% attention. Of course, when you're chanting, your mind is not going everywhere. That is all right, because that is how things are in this material world. But you are trying your best. Okay? Yeah. Discipline is important for anybody. Here is an example of the greatest boxer, Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad Ali is, he's a regular person. I think he's a devout Muslim. But so before going for boxing, he would not engage in, sex with his wife for at least 3 months before a fight. So even for achieving material things, one needs a regulation. That is a teaching here, right? Even students, to achieve anything, they try to be very disciplined, correct? The high achievers in any field, they have a lot of discipline, right? We all know the toppers in the class, they all have very high discipline. Yeah. But many people think when it comes to religion, Right? You don't need to practice any discipline. Many people think like that, whatever I want, I can do. But when it comes to their work or family life, they are very particular about, being very disciplined. So that's actually not the right way to do. Have you heard about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Anybody? Yes?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Thank you. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, so we know Srila Prabhupada, who started our, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. His guru is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is disciple of Gaur Kishore Babaji Maharaj. And Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is also the father of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. Okay? He is a very famous in the sense, he's a great devotee. We'll learn about his life. So by profession, he was engaged in a job. So this is during British rule in the late 1800th century, 1850s, 1870s, those days. So he was a high court magistrate. Magistrate means in those days for, 2 states there is one high court, and he was the judge for that high court. Okay. So he is a very devout person. We'll look at his schedule. You know what his schedule is? So he would rest in the night between 8 and 10, 2 hours, and in the morning at 4 o'clock to 4:30. That is the fixed intervals that he would rest. So that is total what? 2.5 hours. And he would be engaged in spiritual writing. He had authored many, many books. He would engage in writing from 10 in the night to morning 4 a.m. 6 hours he would engage in spiritual writing every single day. And he would chant between 4:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning. And then he would correspond with, other countries, where he would send his books to various libraries in the United States and British, etc. So that is correspondence between 7 and 7:30 in the morning. And then he would study every single day between 7:30 and 9:30 for 2 hours. He would study Bhagavatam or other literatures. And then he would take bath and prasadam between 9:30 and 10 a.m. in the morning. And then he would go to court for court duties from 10 a.m. in the morning to 1 p.m. and then 1 hour lunch break. And from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the evening, again he would do court duties. So 10 to 1 and 2 to 5. Literally morning 10 to 5, evening 5, he is engaged in his duties. And in the evening he will come back home at 5:30, and then he would translate Vedic literature to English or to Bengalis, 5 to 7 p.m. And then he would take prasadam and rest between 7 and 8 p.m. So that is his day. He would rest at 8 p.m. and again wake up at 10 p.m. and engage in his favorite writing from 10 p.m. in the night to 4 a.m. in the morning. And the thing repeats. So he literally had less than 3 hours of sleep every day. He would be engaged in 2.5 hours of chanting, 6 hours of writing, 2 hours of studying scripture. And so Goswamis are the highest contributors to Krishna consciousness. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is considered the 7th Goswami, and he is a Grihastha. You know how many children he had? In those days, he had 13 children. 1-3. We can't even imagine having more than 2 children nowadays, correct? So he was able to raise them very well, and all of them have dedicated their life fully, and many of them became saints. And one of them is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who started 64 Gaudiya Matas. Matas are like temples all over India. So this is how it started. So he is the first person who started spreading Krishna consciousness, and so he spread all over Bengal. He started many temples within the state of Bengal. Many Namhatta centers called where holy name is taught and distributed, and Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam is studied. So he started many hundreds of centers in Bengal. His son, who is a sannyasi, Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, he spread beyond Bengal. He went all over India and started 64 temples in south, north, east, west, everywhere. So he started pan-India Krishna conscious movement. And then Srila Prabhupada, his disciple, he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's the next level. So 3 generations have done 3 levels of work. Srila Prabhupada spread the holy name across the globe. He started 108 temples. Now they have grown to more than 1,000 temples. Now ISKCON has more than 1,000 temples all over the world. Yeah. So, so he is a Grihastha, but he had, even sannyasis and brahmacharis would come and take his blessings, sit at his feet and learn from him. Naturally, when one becomes very serious in spiritual life, he will be respected by both material and spiritual circles. This happens. You will see in your own life. And his life was very disciplined, and he taught us by his example that Grihastha life can be a great spiritual opportunity for progress towards God. Yeah. So if in the Grihastha life we discipline our life according to spiritual principles of scriptures, so we should discipline our life. Right? It doesn't matter whether you're a Grihastha or sannyasi. Doesn't matter. Bhakti can be practiced by anybody, whether you are married or unmarried, and anybody can make full spiritual progress. And here is a great example of it, right? Yep. So the Lord empowered him by simply to show that. Yeah. By the way, he's at some point he decided, okay, let me give my 100% to Krishna consciousness, and he wanted to give up the duties of the judge. At the time, British Empire was ruling the country, and British Viceroy said, no, you should continue because there is nobody who is as efficient as you. So it is heard that Bhaktivinoda Thakur would resolve in one day the cases that would be taken by other judges for about 10 days, because he is so clear, he is such a pure devotee. His judgment, and it's so piercing, his intelligence is so clear, so it would be difficult to match for anybody else. So that's the that's the empowerment Lord has given to him for all that he has done. So Lord empowered him by simply to show that if you become advanced in spiritual life, you become most effective and efficient, and whatever you do, there is a this is a lecture translation, so it's like this: you will do it with love, not with greed. Because if you are a spiritually minded person, whatever you do it with love, never with greed. You don't have any ulterior motive. Yeah. So the challenge with most people in this world is people are spiritually undisciplined, right? But if you are spiritually disciplined, you will achieve, everything very efficiently, both in material as well as spiritual circles. Yeah. Yeah, Shashwat Prabhu.
I just remembered one thing, Prabhuji, when I was reading about Bhaktivinoda Maharaj. Like Mudra Mataji was asking, right? Like, how do we balance our life with duties and spiritual life? If I'm not wrong, you can correct me. I think the British Empire built a train track to his house, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
To ensure that he continues service so that he doesn't get disrupted in his duty. So I think Krishna will facilitate. Like, if you're extremely good at serving him, he'll
Correct.
provide some path.
To respect his time, to value his time, British Empire, they constructed one rail track right to his home, and that rail track is even there today. We went there and saw it in in Mayapur. His house is there. You can see his bed. All of those are preserved. We can all you can all go and see one day when it's opportune time. So in that home, the home has a rail track right before the home, because that rain comes and picks. See, they could have arranged a small vehicle, but they arranged an entire rail track out of respect for him. So how you can see, imagine how efficient he was. Yeah. बन्धुरात्मनस्तस्य बन्धुरात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मना चिता अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत्. Bhagavad Gita 6.6. One whose mind is uncontrolled, his mind acts as his worst enemy. Right? Mind is your best enemy, best friend or the worst enemy, based on whether it is controlled or not. Correct? When mind is uncontrolled, it will force somebody to do suicide, for example. Our real enemy is within our mind, it's not outside. Right? Circumstances can be whatever they are, but if one's mind is controlled, it is his best friend. One can be positive in the worst kind of situation, right? So that's why. So how do you control mind? Through regulation, right? When your mind is clear, you simply see through the clear water of your mind and you perceive what is within you, that is God, right? When mind is purified, one can perceive God directly, right? So through the process of chanting, one is expected to get there to that state naturally. Yeah.
One small question, Prabhuji. When is mind a friend?
When is mind a friend? When mind is controlled, means when mind when mind is not being distracted, that is when it is a friend.
Because I feel like if I don't have a mind, it'll be better.
Yeah, mind is part of you, so cannot live without it. Yeah. But mind is a coordinating sense. So the way things work is you receive inputs through various senses. Mind is the coordinating sense. It puts all the data together and guides you for the action, right? It helps you act in this world. But at the same time, it is a repository of positive and negative experiences. And when mind is uncontrolled, we know what happens, right? People go through drug addictions, illicit relations, bad mouthing, all bad things happen. Lust, greed, anger, envy. These are all enemies within our mind. Lust is where? It is in your mind. It's nowhere else. Greed, where is it? It's in your mind. Envy, where is it? It's in your mind. So these are unwanted things. When when we practice regulated spiritual life through the process of chanting, hearing Bhagavad Gita, reading scriptures, the mind, all these negative, unwanted things in the mind will get wiped away completely. Your anger, your envy, your jealousy, false prestige, these will not find their place in the mind once you practice spiritual life seriously. So when you get away from all of that, then your mind is controlled. Then it will do what is right. So because mind is pure now. So until the mind is uncontrolled, is controlled by your negative aspects, lust, greed, anger, envy, false prestige, it is your worst enemy. Your enemy is not outside, it is inside your mind. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Discipline means sacrifice, right? Most people in this world live like animals, unregulated. They don't take bath. Their lust, greed, anger, envy drives them everywhere crazy because mind is uncontrolled. So that is like animalistic life, right? To come to some level of discipline is human life, right? But to practice spiritual life is divine life, right? So we all should get to divine life. So that will lead to liberation, right? Liberation from liberation is actually what? To get away all these unwanted things, lust, greed, anger, envy from your mind off. That is called state of liberation. Then you are not attached, detached. You are completely happy, blissful in the service of God. Yeah. But you cannot achieve anything in this world without sacrifice, right? You have, for example, you studied from IIT. You know how hard it is to get there. There has to be sacrifice. You have to sacrifice going to movies. You have to sacrifice playing cricket. You have to sacrifice watching YouTube. You have to sacrifice watching movies. You have to do so many. You have to allocate your time for it and study hard, day and night, burn the midnight oil, and then you achieve it. Right? So anything hard in life is achieved with sacrifice, right? Even to grow spiritually, also we need to sacrifice. You need to sacrifice your desires to enjoy with your senses, right? Engage them rather in the service of God, right? So there is Shreyas and Preyas in Vedic literature. Shreyas means what is good for you. Do what is good for you. Preyas, which is long-term good. Preyas means short-term good. Sometimes, things that give you immediate sense gratification. That is called preyas. Yeah. So animalistic life is preyas. Animal will do what it likes. If it wants to have sex, immediately it will try. If it wants, food, it'll bite other dogs and eat it, right? So that is animalistic life. Divine life is regulated life. Yeah, we discussed this, senses will pull us everywhere. We should be regulated. Yeah. So, but the challenge is, like we discussed already, we cannot say no to our sense desires. We want to watch movie. You cannot just say, oh no, I won't watch movies. You cannot restrain it like that. If you artificially restrain, it will force upon you one day, right? So instead, one should achieve higher taste. That is the only way to give up lower taste. When you are a child, you are playing with a toy, cars, etc. But when you grew up, you wanted a motorbike or or a car, for example. You don't derive the same pleasure in playing with the toy car. Why? because now you have a higher taste, correct? All the material gratifications, like watching movies, eating out in the restaurants, whatever, the sense enjoyments that we are used to in the material world, that can be given up only when you develop higher taste. Param drishtani vartate. Param drishtani vartate means only when you have higher taste in the engagements of spiritual nature, that is when you can give up lower things. If you are still hankering after lower things, it means that the higher taste is not developed. It will continue to happen for a long time. Don't worry that tomorrow you're going to be at a pure state where you don't look at it. No, it will take time. What I'm saying is, we cannot restrain senses forcefully. It is naturally going to happen when you develop higher taste. One who controls his mind and senses and restrains from the objects of senses, he will eventually fall down to sense enjoyment. We have seen the example of Vishwamitra Muni, who fell for Manaka. He was a sage who was meditating for thousands of years, but he hasn't yet overcome lower tastes fully. So when Manaka came by the twinkling of her ankle bells, he was distracted, and then he married her and then completely gave up for a long time until he realized what mistake happened. And then again he'll give up her and again started meditating. It's a long story, um, but devotion service is so powerful. It gives such a higher taste that one will not be attracted to lower things. Yeah. Yeah. So the process of receiving that mercy is expressing our sincere desire through our actions, right? So how do we develop that, the taste for higher things in spiritual life? That will happen when you receive the mercy of the Lord. How do you receive the mercy of the Lord? When you act with discipline. What is in your hand is acting with discipline, chanting the holy name sincerely, and that what happens when you do that? It's not that holy name, you know, uh, something automatically happens and your mind gets cleaned. It will please, your sincere efforts will please the Lord. When Lord is pleased, He will clean your heart from inside. As Paramatma, He will clean your heart from inside. So that is exactly what happens when you chant the holy name or when you engage in devotion service, right? So one has to act. So our actions in spiritual life, like chanting, these will attract the mercy of Lord, and in turn, Lord will actually help clean our heart from inside. That's how it works. Yeah, Mudra.
Prabhuji, I have attended Art of Living's Sudarshan Kriya. They have that session where they teach you pranayam, and it is also a way to focus on your breathing and everything. So that also calms one person down. I feel similar way when I think that process as well as chanting in a when you have closed your eyes and you are focused on Krishna, then it's like bringing your mind to actually be able to very easily bring it to present and focus on what you want to focus on. So I wanted to just like, is it okay to also do that? I know that is pranayama, but and it is a different organization, but just
Doesn't
wanted to.
matter. Doesn't matter. If something is helping you spiritually to focus your mind, see, that's a means. That's not you're
Hmm.
not ending the core process. You're still chanting.
Hmm.
if you are able to help, calm your mind through practice of meditation for a few minutes before chanting, and that is helping you, which is all right, perfectly all right. In in spiritual circles also, within our we engage in some prayers, through that prayer also we bring our mind to control before chanting. That is one way. Some people try to, what you are trying is also tried by many people I know, so which is okay, through practice of pranayama, through breathing exercises, that's a more mechanical method.
Hmm.
We do is more spiritual method. That's the only difference.
Hmm.
Any method that you follow to bring your mind to focus before you're chanting is all right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we are that one who develops a taste for hearing the glories of Lord, one who is always willing to say yes to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatas, to submit yourself before great souls and hear from them and take pleasure in hearing the philosophy and the glories of the Lord. And when you do these activities like hearing Bhagavatam, etc., Krishna within your heart is so satisfied that he personally cleanses all the impurities within your heart and reveals himself to you. So this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Shrinvatam swakatah Krishna punyashravana kirtana hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. Shrinvatam swakatah Krishna. Swakatah Krishna means swakata means the katha of Krishna. Shrinvata means one who hears. What is it? It's actually Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is very, very pleasing to the heart. This Kirtana is very, very pleasing to the heart. Then what happens? Hrid antastohi abhadrani. Abhadrani means unwanted, things like lust, greed, anger, envy. Hridi anta means present in the heart. Antastohi abhadrani. Vidhunoti suhrit satam. So the Supreme Lord cleanses that, from within the heart. Being pleased with one's sincerity in hearing. Right? So by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, it's not just you are just gaining some knowledge. Actually, that act of sitting and hearing sincerely pleases the Lord, and it attracts the mercy of Lord, and in turn, He cleanses the heart. Okay, so it has a multifold benefit. So this is the difference between other yoga practices and bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is more so most other processes are mechanical in a way, because you're trying to mechanically bring your mind to focus through pranayam, pratyahar, dharan, dhyan. But this one is, that's why this is the bhakti yoga is the main, is the only spiritual process. In jnana, you're trying to use your mind as the tool. In yoga, you're trying to use your breathing as the tool to control your mind. In jnana, you're trying to understand, so it's mind and intelligence. But in bhakti, what are you trying to do when you are doing japa? You are fully focusing your consciousness on hearing the holy name. So that's why bhakti yoga, japa is called a yajna. You are offering your consciousness to Lord, right? What is the main thing that happens as part of chanting is you're giving your consciousness in the service of Lord. You're giving your time and consciousness directly. Consciousness is a spiritual thing. So for all the other things like Ashtanga Yoga, the means is a material thing. Here the means is a spiritual thing. So that's why Bhakti Yoga is a completely spiritual process, because you're offering your consciousness and you are dealing with a spiritual entity directly. The Supreme Lord is a spiritual entity. in Ashtanga Yoga, initially you are dealing with your mind, which is a material thing. You're trying to calm your mind. That's a process, material process. Jnana Yoga, you're trying to understand the nature of soul. Even the subject is spiritual, but your instrument is still material, mind and intelligence. So that's why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, out of yajnas I am japa yajna. Out of sacrifices, yajnanam japa yajnosmi. Yajnanam, out of all sacrifices. So sacrifices can be done with material things, with a fire sacrifice, where you put, panchabhutas, rice, ghee, and fire element, etc. So all the 5 material elements are ingredients offered to Agni. So that is a material sacrifice. That is also sacrifice. But we think sacrifice means only that, fire yajna. But actually it is not. Sacrifice means what you are giving out. And the best thing that you can give out is your heart, because your consciousness. Because you are giving out the best thing. When you are giving that your best thing when you are doing japa. Because japa means you are giving your consciousness in the service of Lord. Right? You are giving your heart to Lord. So that's why in sacrifices, Krishna says, I am japa yajna, because that's the highest of all sacrifices you can give. You understand how deep chanting is? Chanting is, not something simple, and many people think, chanting is very easy, and it's not that deep. But actually chanting is the most deepest. Okay. So I think we're almost done. This is just an example here. So basically, one should engage his body, mind, and soul. Everything, engaging soul in the service of Lord is prayers, chanting. Chanting is actually engagement of soul. Engagement of body. Body means you can go to temple. Taking your body to temple is engaging body in the service of temple, or in the service of Krishna consciousness. Mind means reading Vedic literature, that is engaging your mind and intelligence. So in this way, we can engage all our senses, and by serving great devotees, one will make a lot of advancement also. That's mentioned here. Shushruso Sardadhanasya Vasudeva Katharichi Shan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nisevanat. So Susruso Sardadhanasya Vasudeva Katharichi. Susruso, if you serve great devotees, Mahat Sevanam, many times devotees who are advanced than us, when they're available to our, because if you engage in service, that is equivalent to visiting all the Punya Kshetras. And when you do that, when you engage in the service of great devotees, it will develop Vasudeva Kadarachi, means the desire to hear from Krishna develops naturally. Okay, the desire to chant. So many people think how I will develop the taste for chanting, how I will develop a taste for hearing. It will happen when you engage in the service of great devotees. Shushrusa Sadadhanasya Vasudeva Kadarchi Shan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyash Tirtha Nisevanat. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions, any other discussions? If not, thank you all for joining today. We'll meet in person next week. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much,
Bye,
Prabhuji.
both. Dandot pranam, Suroji.
Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dhanut Pranam.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Krishna.